Hi, everyone, and welcome to our second episode of Marketing Overtime. Today, we are here with Professor Peter Drummond, an adjunct professor teaching marketing strategy at Queen's University for the MBA program. And I wanted to share a little bit about his background before we get started. So, as a principal and co-founder of the PSD+G strategy group, Peter has devoted 30 years to helping his clients achieve business success. With his wisdom, wit, and creativity, partnered with a keen desire to understand their DNA and core strategic challenge, Peter has earned a loyal following amongst big brands, startups, and non-for-profits. His passion building purpose-driven brands, especially those with social impact. Peter has led the business and brand strategic work at Course Entertainment, BioK Plus, Natural Products Canada, Canada Post, Kijiji, Open Blue Sea Farms, Shoppers Drug Mart, Live Nation, as well as Ocean Nutrition Canada and 48 North Cannabis. Credited as a co-creator of Level 5 Strategy Group, a national leader in strategy consultancy, prior posts include running a strategy consultancy in Montreal, as well as an identity and design firm in Toronto within Cosette Communications Group. With a passion to share his knowledge and experience and help grow a new generation of thinkers, Peter teaches at Smith School of Business at Queen's University as an adjunct professor, teaching marketing strategy for the Executive MBA National and Americas program. Peter has a BFA in Communication, Arts, and Design from Virginia Commonwealth University and attended the Graduate School of Business Executive Management program at Columbia University. Peter is also co-founder of 32 Degrees Ventures, a social impact firm committed to change the impact of ice on water. So first, we're going to get started with just what led you into teaching marketing courses at Queen's University.
Great question. It was kind of a little bit of happenstance. It was 2015, May 2015, and we were going through some growing pains at PSD+G. And I had a deep passion. I had done some lecturing before at Rotman, a competitor, but kind of guest lecture. And I reached out to Ken Wong. I guess you're first up in the series. Ken is a partner at Level 5, a former I helped co-create Level 5. And so I reached out to Ken and said, can we meet, have a chat about what teaching could look like for me at Queen's. He introduced me to the assistant dean at that time, Terry Shearer. So she sent me an email, said, I hear you're coming to Kingston. Do you want to meet? I went, yep. And came down there and she talked, obviously we had a conversation about my background and what they were looking for, and essentially offered me to teach marketing strategy 333 for third and fourth year students. I was crazy, so I signed up for it, but I was crazy enough to sign up for two sections in the same fall term. So that was a little overwhelming, to say the least. It was a huge challenge. It was exciting. It was scary. And she also offered me EMBA Americas program, which is an awesome program. It's in the graduate school, but it's with Cornell University as well. So we're not just talking to Canadian executives, we're talking to American and South American. So it was a little bit accidental, and I've done marketing strategy, brand management, EMBA, but I've kind of just settled into the EMBA program right now, the national side, and we just finished up last week with the thing that I like to bring to all my courses, whether it's in the commerce level or up at the graduate level. I really inject kind of a real life perspective, like this year we had 3 clients, so there were 3 teams of one was dealing with the Prince Edward County Wine Growers Association. One was dealing with a cider, Big Rock Creek, which is from Big Rock Brewery in Calgary. And then the third client was Ithaca Sheepskin out of Ithaca, New York. So three different businesses, and they take 12 weeks and they solve the problem, kind of like what you guys do, but over 12 weeks, and then we deliver to the client. So I've just come to love teaching. It's kind of a good complementary to strategy consulting. And I love interacting with students, whether it is commerce and third and fourth year, people are really passionate and want to, learn more. And at the same time, albeit the conversations are different, I still learn and I still grow at the EMBA level. So I'm just so proud to be part of the Smith community.
Awesome. That sounds so cool. It's definitely, I feel like those courses that like you get to have those like real life experiences in, like that are always, I feel like I learn the most in. So that's really cool to hear.
Yeah, just a comment on that. It's just, that's probably the number one feedback
Mhm.
that the students get. And not only that, but the last 3 days of courses, the 17th, 18th, 19th, I had three, each day, a panel on the role of digital marketing. So I had three guest speakers from preeminent digital firms. I had the role of strategic partnerships, three more panelists from agency and clients. And then the last one was how agencies and clients work together to grow brands. So we had a couple of clients and a couple of agencies. And, they're just, thank God someone's bringing in some real world stuff versus the academic. So it's the biggest feedback I get for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a good feel for how the industry works.
Exactly.
And then I know you've also taught brand management. What kind of drew you to that area of marketing, and then the other kind of more niche areas of marketing that you've kind of taught as courses?
Yeah, I mean, the niche areas are probably just marketing strategy per se, or brand management. I guess, if we were to break it down, this year's EMBA is topics in marketing, it was called. So while I keep, a brand and marketing strategy focus, it is those three topics that I just listed that I injected at the back end. So next year, what are the topics going to be? We'll see what the world is and feedback from this year's course. What led me to brand management? Because I guess that's what I really love doing. And there was no course at Smith at that time. And this woman, Terry, asked me to create the course. And I taught it, I think, twice. So the first year, the students clearly were guinea pigs. Um, um, and we did pretty well, actually. And then did it a second year and haven't, I don't know why, but I haven't, signed up on it again. The interesting thing with brand management is while I showed them how to manage like big brands and what are the components when you want to assess your brand, understand, how your customers and consumers think of you, how do you position, how do you find your point of difference, how do you create a, deep, meaningful value proposition, what does that mean to the organization in terms of consistent delivery from HR to marketing to operations. That was kind of, the big focus, but the big assignment was brand you. So while we were learning about big organizations and brand management at a high level, I further individual assignment, we focused on brand you. So I took all the fundamental, because it's the same principle, whether we're building for Canada Post or building for you, we are all brands. And so you take the same questions, same tools, same processes, and I got the commerce students to start thinking about themselves. And especially in the fourth years, third years, they're trying to get those really great internships in the summer, and maybe a springboard to potential job security when they're in fourth year, or the fourth year is really jumping into the marketplace and starting to do interviews. What I quickly discovered when I was teaching, and it's not just commerce students, because I saw it in the MBA level as well. Students weren't good at telling their story. Every student in my class, hey Joni or hey Peter, what do you do and what do you want to be in 3 years? And the story, or tell me a little bit about yourself. The stories were all the same. Strong leadership skills, strong strategic planning, analytical, no point of difference. So if Peter is coming in before and Susie's coming in after you, how am I, as a potential employer, how am I supposed to tell the difference? Right? So it's no different that you should be able to understand what your point of difference is against the two competitors on the left and the right of you, applying for the same job, and tell that story in a powerful, compelling, and emotional way. And why you bring, what's the value you're going to bring to my firm if I hire you? So that was kind of, that was a little, I think, eye-opening for them. It's a lot of work. You're analyzing yourself, you're not criticizing, but you are getting critical feedback from friends, family, and bosses or colleagues. And, sometimes it's not always pleasant to see the realities of how you think of yourself, if you force yourself or others share. So then it's about crafting, your value prop, your brand DNA, and then figuring out, where do you want to go search for that job. So getting to a tight positioning statement, and then really a kind of a tight story that is compelling and differentiates you from, the two people on the left and the right, kind of thing.
That's so relevant and kind of exactly what we've all kind of been going through with recruiting and just trying to learn about ourselves as we kind of guide through the program. Now I'd love to kind of dive into some like marketing communication questions and some educational ones. So I would love to know, what is one of your favorite brands and why? This could be like holiday related or just general. So one of your like all-time favorites.
One's going to sound a little hokey, and I've got two to share with you. One's going to, Apple. Apple is, an awesome brand. And I don't say that, I say that because they truly embed the brand strategy in their whole ethos. I mean, when Steve Jobs started Apple, it was all about simplicity and at the core of the DNA. And then everything that has come out of that in their whole ecosystem, from product design to culture to hiring to store design, everything they do is so focused, so consistent, that you see a half a page of one of their ads, you just have to see the typography. You don't need to see the logo. The typography belongs to Apple, and that's an Apple ad. That's how powerful a brand is. And so it's totally immersive in their whole ecosystem. And it's not just about the head of marketing or the head of brand. It's about the Apple executives owning the brand and driving the growth. And, it's one of the most valuable brands in the world. So they're always a great case to bring into my courses. It's a little, here's another Apple example, but they're just so good at it, right? I mean, just look at their product design. The experience of opening up. I just last week, my MacBook Air died, and I needed it for the last week of course. So driving back from the country place, went straight to Best Buy, got a new one, came home, and just the joy of opening out of that box, how beautifully, it just doesn't come off. It's a beautiful it's an experience opening that box. It's an experience to pull the charger out. It's not just opening a present, it is opening a present on Christmas Day. There's great joy. And the designers are thinking about that. The other great example, it's a Canadian example. You guys should check it out. Scout Canning. Scout Canning. It's all about sustainable seafood. The co-founder and the lead chef are I think part of the group is from Prince Edward Island, so that's where they get a lot of the sourcing. But basically, they're created a sustainable ecosystem to get their fish. They can it, and they not just can it, but can it with spices already pre-made. So you can serve lobster or trout or tuna onto a great green salad, or you can mix it into a pasta. The beauty is it's a beautiful brand in terms of their purpose and their social impact. They are clearly differentiated and beautiful product, like from the packaging, from the story, from the experience of buying it with them. They do a great job. And as you read out in your intro of me, I've really taken a liking and focus on brands that are purpose driven and more social impact driven, and that's what I love about Scout. It's completely social impact driven, yet it's a for-profit organization.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to liking the brand of Apple. I'm pretty sure Nicole, Ashley, and I are all Apple users, and most of it's all interconnected to each other.
Right.
But I also was wondering, this is a little bit more design focused. However, there's definitely strategy implemented in this. If an organization had an outdated or unappealing brand, how would you go about updating that brand without making it unidentifiable?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And so I'm a designer by background. I'm not the typical business adjunct professor. I actually got a BFA in communication arts and design, minor in photography, went out and I worked at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C., which is part of the Smithsonian, designing exhibits for invertebrates, worked in Boston in corporate identity, environmental design, annual reports, back to home to Montreal and worked in big corporate identity programs. So I get it. And I've worked on big corporate identity projects where kind of had a mandate like this. Some of the brands were outdated, needed a refresh, and there was a little bit of tension between whether it was the executives about how much change should occur with the identity and the look and the feel, or the consumers wanted a big change and management didn't, or management wanted a big change and not sure the consumers would openly embrace it. So one of the things we do, and I can't talk about the client, but it's a pretty major national client, highly recognizable brand. That was the case. The senior management wanted a change of the identity, but didn't know to what degree. How far out do we go? So one of the key steps is do some research, understand from the client perspective, what are the expectations for change, and how do you get them into aligned in terms of one position, and then understanding the marketplace. What are your customers or consumers? What's working or not working with the brand? Is it signaling the key positioning or the key value proposition aspects that you need it or wanted to do? And then go out and do a quick audit of the marketplace, of your competitors or comparatives, and see what they've done in terms of updating the brand. I mean, if you actually went and looked at the Apple logo, it's gone through about 10 iterations, right? From the original, rainbow, I'll call it the rainbow apple. So it's about updating, refreshing, keeping with the times. One of the key exercises we did to get to a place of solidarity, we kind of do a design exercise. So it's not so much of creating the logo for the final logo. It's kind of showing them options. So we basically kind of create new logo ideas on a continuum of evolution. So little change, a little bit more change, a little bit more, and then revolution, complete. Maybe you just keep the color, but the changed. Or maybe everything's changed. But we could show up to 10 that shows an evolution of change, and then you start to see, and the further you go down the pipeline, the more you're losing from the original identity, right? Whether that's color, shape, type, tagline, whatever. And so then we have let's just assume we have 5 positions down that spectrum. Then we just have conversations, the pros and the cons of each one, what the implications could be in terms of bringing that brand to life on all your touch points. And then, ultimately through conversation and strategy, you kind of pick an alleyway. And let's just assume it was halfway between slight evolution and revolution. Then the designers go out and look at all the options down that center lane, if you would, option number 3 in the middle of those 5. And then you come back with probably 3 to 4 ideas in that center lane that, maybe more of a symbol, maybe more of a word type, maybe really just playing with all different variations of a color, right? If it's red and blue, maybe it's different reds and a different blue. Maybe you go from more predominant blue to predominantly red, and blue's the accent. So there's a whole bunch of things you can do to play with. But it's understanding what are the parameters, what are the guidelines, and what are the expectations of both management and customers. I mean, in some big projects, you can go out and test it. I'm not a big believer of testing strategy. In this case, it's identity strategy, but it certainly gives you, you certainly can find out any flags, red flags that would be any potential risks. And that's probably the most important thing.
Cool. Yeah, that's definitely all really good to keep in mind as we kind of embark on a lot of our own projects.
Yes.
Kind of similar along the same space. When you do have an established brand, what do you think are the most important steps to go about ensuring your brand maintenance and making sure that, a brand continues to stay relevant in the minds of consumers?
Yeah, and maintenance, you mean like kind of management?
Yeah, just kind of continuing along.
Yeah, and I say this almost every session with the students. Research, right? It's so general principles, just always being in the marketplace and understanding whether it's qualitative or quantitative, but understanding what your customers want and don't want. What are the unmet needs in the marketplace? How well are you doing? Can the customer experience be improved? So it's about researching and tweaking, right? And staying ahead of the curve and trying to anticipate, big changes kind of 18 months, 36 months down the road. You want to be thinking about, are the competitors are going to be the same? Is there a potential emerging player that could put you at risk? So it's about keeping your eyes open in the marketplace, and from a competitive set, from a consumer or customer perspective, are your customers the same as they were 3 years ago? And because you're in a category that is, fraught with competition, new entrants, and there's lots of switching going on. Well, then that kind of dynamics really forces you to be, right on top of things, and to work hard at trying to build some loyalty. So those that are with you or coming in to test you out or playing your sandbox for a bit, you want to find a way to retain them. And so for me, one of the biggest anchors for growth is loyalty. And like, it's almost like COVID, right? Everybody was and still is, obviously in shock and awe, and people have lost business and people have lost clients. And I went out and did some webinars to small and medium businesses. 2 things. One is I probably spoke to 300 entrepreneurs between March and May. Less than 50% had a strategic plan, which is not a great situation. If you have no plan, you don't know where you're going. So how are you going to get there? And in 2, less than 50% did any form of research with their customers. So you've got businesses out there doing things, selling things, and they haven't spent time with their customer. My guess is they're leaving lots of money on the table, right? and could be a much better, doing much better. My point is, to all those folks that I did talk to in COVID, focus on your existing customers, find a way to keep them closer to you. They're the ones that are going to keep you afloat. And don't waste your time going to find new folks right now. Just keep your core people happy. And if you keep them happy, they're more likely to stay with you over the long term. So it's really been ears to the ground, eyes to the ground, researching.
That's interesting to hear from the loyalty side. And I know a lot of like the Canadian brands are really focusing on that during this time of COVID. Something else that we were wondering were, how would you say that brands have transformed over the past decade? COVID aside, because that's kind of thrown a wrench into everything. But how would you say that you've seen them all evolve?
I guess for me, there's kind of potentially two big ideas. One is, in a ways, they become more, I think the consumer or the customer has become more powerful. So while the brand managers still control the brand, you've got a much higher level of engagement with consumers or customers. You've got smarter consumers and customers. You've got something called the internet and an iPhone, so that if you're walking downtown Kingston and you're shopping around for whatever it is, you can quickly go on the phone and see if anybody else on Princess or King or Queen Street has that, and same price or better value. And so those, the dynamics of, the consumer has the power. They're going to ask questions. They're going to investigate and see where are they getting the best value. Maybe not the best price, but the best value. So that's one. Two is they're actively engaged in the brand, in conversations, either challenging the brand of some, the brand's not standing up for diversity and equality, or, the brand is, taking a political stance that is not popular. Then their customers and consumers get engaged, right? So I think that's the power that customers have come to have, and brands have to realize that they can't stop this. It is part of evolution. It's part of communications. It's part of, community building, and brand tribes. The key is that the brands stay engaged with these folks, have the conversations, understand what they're trying to do, so you can move the brand forward in a positive way. I think the second piece is kind of the democratization of brands, right? The digital economy. Any one of the four of us can start up a business this afternoon. We can have a website up by tomorrow morning, and we can be selling, I'm looking at a necklace right now. We could be selling necklaces, right? We could be selling, any, home cooked meals, whatever we want. So that's pretty cool, right? It's changed the game in terms of what a business means, and starting one up, and you can have a digital business, and meanwhile you still have a full-time job doing something else. So it's changed the dynamics. It's democratized businesses, and it's also the digital channel is the future, and we're still figuring it out, right? What does that digital ecosystem look like? How much is digital versus traditional? How do you manage the integration so the experience is the same? Profound questions. And, I think what we've seen dramatic change in the last 5 years, I think the change is just going to get expedited as technology improves, in terms of how we understand how technology can help my brand do different and better things. That's all going to get developed at a much faster rate.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about how the speed of innovation has just rapidly grown over the years, and hopefully sustainability will start to grow at that rate as well. And now we're just going to move on to just some last questions. And the first one is just in general, do you have any advice for future marketers in our program? We're all fourth years here, and I think we could use any advice we can get.
Yeah, I guess a couple of things. Some of it's through courses. So, no question, the digital courses, I think JP teaches those, right? Those are fundamentally important given what we just talked about. The 333 marketing strategy, fundamentally important. Ken Wong's class, great course, great prof as well. Those are the three that jump to my head. But do anything in marketing. Suck it up. Get as much as you can so that you've got kind of a broad perspective of marketing. Some of you are going to end up on a consultancy side. Some of you are going to end up in a client side. Some of you may end up in a startup. But the broader perspective you have just brings more value to you and how you could potentially apply it into the real world, if you would. The other thing I would consider doing is, joining, get engaged in the marketing or strategy community. So whether that's, joining the American Marketing Association in the chapter, or, there's chapters in pretty much every major city across the country, or some other marketing organization. That's probably one of the most preeminent ones. Where you can get in and they offer seminars. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, but for students or just graduated, it's either free or really reduced rates. And then so you're getting in and you're seeing best in class talkers talk in their space. It allows you to network. The one thing that's the third point, networking. Networking. That is my number one message to you guys and to the students. I cannot underestimate how powerful that is and how important that is. And it's going to be for the rest of your lives, your professional lives, even personal lives, if you think about the context at a broader level. But it was when I left one of my former companies, I was fortunate enough to be in an outplacement situation where you're getting coaching in terms of, now Peter, think about what you want to do in your next stage of life. What are you really good at? What are you not good at? What don't you like? The biggest takeaway was networking and learning how, and I'm a person who doesn't like schmoozing, doesn't like business development, don't like small talk, networking. But I realized that if I'm going to create PSD&G, I got to do it. I got to learn. And if anything, that's probably one of the things that I do pretty well. It's just, having the comfort level to reach out to someone you don't know. Hey, here's what we do. Are you open for a 30-minute conversation to see how we could potentially help you out? I noticed on your website, I have a little point of view about their value prop or, whatever, that potentially opens a conversation. And then when you meet that person, well, we don't, nice to meet you, Peter, but we don't have an opportunity right now. We'll keep you in mind. Well, Rick, thanks for the time as well. I really appreciate it. Do you know anybody else who might be open to my idea, my services? Well, you might want to see Susan down at company XYZ. So if I walk out of that meeting with another name, boom. All of these names are getting onto my database. You can come back to them a year later, 3 years later. I can tell you, last 3 years of PSD&G, all being old clients or referrals from old clients. Some people I haven't spoken to in 5 years, but 2 years ago I went and had a networking coffee. The current project I just got, I haven't spoken to the guy in 5 years, but the fact that I triggered, there was the right timing 18 months ago, he then remembered this June that I was a potential to help solve a problem for one of his clients. So focus on the marketing courses and get as much as you can. Go outside and join community and business associations to network, to get information. Try to do, you guys are fortunate with the marketing club, but if for those that don't and aren't in the marketing club, then try to go do some freelance work. Do it for free if you have to. Then you've got something solid. I took this, I took this apiary, apiary, and found them a digital strategy, and the client's really happy, and results are up. That's awesome, even if you're giving your time away free. Then you've got a case to show your prospective employee that you, and it's even more powerful that you invested the time to do it. So, and then the last one is networking. I lost my thought there, but it is really network, network, network.
Awesome. Definitely a lot of good takeaways there. And then kind of just for our very last question, you sort of touched on this with the summative assignment, the brand management course, but
Yeah.
Do you have any tips to kind of strengthen our own personal brand?
I guess the biggest thing out of this brand you piece is being comprehensive, being open to criticism by because you're going to go, in the process, you go out and talk to former bosses or working colleagues from your summer jobs, and you have a list of questions. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What is my what do you think my point of difference is? If there's one thing I have to work on, what should it be? Right. So you imagine you got those questions you're going to give to all your bosses and your working colleagues from the last 2 summers. Then you take those same questions, and because it's brand you is not just about the business, it's about all of you. So you're going to then take that and give it to your friends and family. So now you've got, call it 20 pieces of data of a questionnaire, right? Business side, personal side. Some of the stuff you may hear, you might be angry, you might be pissed off, but if you look at it in the spirit of these people are being constructive to help me improve, then and to get to a better level and more aware of myself, that's going to get you to a better place on truly understanding who you are and what you stand for in life. And then it'll just lead to a better strategy, more focus. Then you come to, what is my purpose? My purpose isn't to become an executive in a top tier CPG company. That's a goal on your professional side. What's your purpose and why do you exist? That's your starting point that you should figure out. And that sort of supersedes or covers, both your personal life and your business life. Right? And then you can set up a goal for what you want on the professional side, but figure out what, why do you exist and what's your purpose on this planet to the best of your ability. And then you work on a mission, your values, your DNA, your value prop, your positioning, and then your story. And you can actually come out of this with some action plans as well, right? I mean, it may say you need to brush up on these 2 competencies, because many of people in the research told you, well, you're a strong leader and you got great analytical skills, how you express yourself in meetings or on documents is not always clear. You get mumbling. It's just you got to sharpen your written communications and verbal communications. Perfect. I'll go out and do another course. I'll learn how to communicate better. And that's just helping you improve overall as a person. So it's a pretty rigorous process, but it forces reappraisal of yourself. And I think it's just so valuable. And it's something you don't do once. Like as you're graduating, I would say every 3 years, you kind of, go back and double check, see if data has changed, because you've now worked 3 years more, you've got more experience, you've done different things in life. So you can always use this tool in this process for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's some great advice and thoughts for all of us to kind of take away and ponder for at least over the winter break and for some of our free time, especially during this pandemic and quarantine. So yeah, on behalf of the whole SMC team, I just wanted to say thank you so much for chatting with us and taking time to share some of your experience and knowledge with all of the marketing students in the Queens community. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Well, thank you guys. Great conversation. And if anybody wants to reach out to me for further conversation or dialogue, happy to have a conversation with anybody. So appreciate you all this morning, and good luck on the rest of the term, and have a great Christmas holiday.
Thank you.
Cheers.